Howdy there, YouTubers. This is another deck profile. Sorry if I'm late on updates. I will come up with more sooner or later, and as well as a profile of my story with Yu-Gi-Oh! So today's profile is basically one that, well, only half percentage of duelists run, which is the Malefic deck. And, well, depending on what you run, such as Gravekeepers, or pretty much a Dragon run, like I run in this build, or anti-meta, well, vice versa, you get the point. So I'm gonna give you an update on my new deck because I've been changing it up a bit since I've left home and gone to college for my last year. And here we go. First off, we start off with 3 Malefic Cyber End Dragons. Pretty much they're the beat stick of the deck. They're not really the brain of the deck. They're the heart, along with Malefic Stardust. Pretty much, you summon it. I wish it could do some piercing damage like the original Cyber End, but hey, I mean, 4,000 points and destroying monsters is pretty good. Plus, with an OTK for limiter, flawless. 3 Malefic Stardust, they're like field barriers, but completely powerful. Well, I can't say indestructible because these guys can be destroyed. Not every card is invincible, so you get my point. So they're like field barriers for your field spells, only they're monsters, pretty much. Yeah. Anyway, moving on. 1 Malefic Blue Eyes. I only put him in there until I get a Mech Lord Granel, because I really need Granel, especially for this build. 2 Malefic Truths for just any resort. Like if I send him to the grave, Cyber End's destroyed, pay half, bring him back, and have a 5,000 point beat stick right there. Say if the OTK doesn't work for limiter, I'd have a 5,000 point attack monster. So yeah, 2. 1 Mech Lord Emperor Weisel, just for canceling out spells, taking my opponent's synchro monsters. I think it's once per turn. Well, one at a time. Well, depending. But the effect for spells pretty much can only be used once per turn. Wish were continuous, but I mean, hey, they made the card. I mean, it's how things roll, I guess. At least with how they make Yu-Gi-Oh cards these days. Anyway, 2 Parallel Gears for synchro summons, obviously, and you probably get an idea which ones. And 2 Breakers just for back row destruction, and for a combo that I have, since I have like I think 4 field spells in the deck. And also, this Malefic deck, pretty much, in my opinion, is pretty good because I've tested it out a bunch of times, especially on my network account. So yeah, it's consistent, but I just I'm not sure if I am going to stick with it, but we'll see how it goes in the near future. So yeah. Moving on to spells, we have 2 Malefic Worlds. I know what you all are saying. 3 is pretty good, but think of it this way: if I want to get rid of Malefic Truth Dragon, Dragon's Ravine, pay half. Think about it. Have him already in the grave. Don't need to use Foolish Burial because it would be a waste of time. I would only use that effect once. What if I wanted to get rid of some other cards, like Stardust Dragon, Malefic Stardust Dragon, rather, or the Blue Eyes that I have in my deck just for synchro purposes or tossing purposes? You do that, and you could possibly get a fusion monster out, or 5,000 point beat stick like 5-headed dragon, for example. especially with this cool build. 1 Dragon's Ravine, that's all you need. And a Magic Citadel for the Breaker combo, depending on how many spells you activate. It's pretty good. I've actually used it once. I mean, highly recommendable, especially for a Malefic deck. 1 Allure. Just be careful not to draw the cards that you don't need. Trade-ins, 2 of them. Obviously, the third was a dead draw thing to me, so I figured, you know, 3 is good, but with this build, maybe it's best if I keep 1 Allure and 2 of these. So, 2 Allure with not 2 Allure because they limited that. With 2 trade-ins, it could actually make it easier for me, especially with this build, since I have only fewer level 8 monsters. But until I get Mechlord, Emperor Granel, I'm probably going to stick with the Blue Eyes because, well, based on this build, it's actually helping me get 5-headed dragon out faster. Moving on. 2 terraformings for quick, quick searching power for field spells, pretty much. 2 Kaiser Colosseums. I don't know if I'll run 1. Well, you guys can decide like whether 1 or 2 is good. But in my opinion, I think 2 is good. Say if that one were destroyed, I could get that one out, and pretty much I'd have Malefics, and my opponent wouldn't have anything because this pretty much cancels it out. The monsters that exceed on my field, my opponent can't exceed on their field. So, in other words, I have monsters and they don't. So, pretty beneficial card, depending on how you use it. And 1 Lightning Vortex works well with Malefic Truth and also for destroying monsters. So, and until I get a Dark Hole, which I only have 1, I'm using it for the macro deck. Oh, spoiler! Anyway, yeah, until I get a Dark Hole, I'm not gonna take this out, so yeah. Worked well so far. I mean, when 3-in-1 with this deck, where I duel at. 1 Dragon's Mirror, you kind of have an idea what. And 2 MSTs for back row destruction. And lastly, we're moving on to the traps. 3 Skill Drain for, say if you didn't get Malefic World or the field spells, you could still use the Malefic monsters. But the problem is you can't swarm with Malefics. Like, well, except for Parallel Gear and Paradox Dragon, because it doesn't really, I mean, they pretty much only work if, well, Paradox only works if Malefic World's on the field, but Parallel Gear, you can just summon them right off the bat. But problem is, if you have another Malefic Cyber End Dragon in your hand, for example, say if I have 3 Malefic Cyber Ends in my hand, I wanted to summon another one, you can't, because that effect in the hand still applies to the one that you have in your hand. The other one on your field, it's not affected, but you can only keep that one in the field until you get a Malefic monster that isn't affected by its own effect. So in other words, get out a Malefic monster that doesn't really have the effect of not being summoned one at a time. So, yeah, you get my point. You can have more than 1 Malefic, just as long as you're careful with what you're doing. On Starlight Road, in case people play Heavy Storm, well, Heavy Storm's going to be a big problem now since it's off the ban list. So, and thank God it's off the ban list, because I'm using it constantly in most of my decks now. And yeah, Starlight Road's pretty good. I mean, especially with Dark Hole and all those other good cards. So yeah, has some potential. Might keep it in there for a while. 2 Compulses to return stuff like Malefics if they ever get deprisoned or anything like that. I can negate that. just by activating that and just return it to the hand. Two Eradicators, pretty deadly, especially for this deck. You just sack a Malefic, well, 25 or higher, and you're good to go, because you can choose pretty much any type of card you want, spell or trap. But just as long as you look at the field first and the hand, and it works for 3 turns, which makes it even more sick. And Deck Devi, pretty good card. Just need to sacrifice a monster with 2,000 or more attack points. Well, obviously, because I have those, it's no problem. And works well with getting rid of weak monsters that can be used for synchro summons and fusion summons, and other effects as well. So, like Effect Veiler or any of those, if they had that in their hand, you can activate this, sack a Malefic Stardust, for example, and you can they're pretty much going to be screwed. So, yeah, an Effect Veiler will be gone because it's pretty weak. Mind Crush, mainly use it for the Deck Devi combos or the Eradicator combos, just to discard extra cards, so that way I won't be just randomly guessing cards in my opponent's hand. I mean, because I can not only see the hand with those cards, but with this one, I can actually declare a name and just discard it right off the bat. So whatever card that's special to them, they're pretty much screwed, because I can activate this and take it away from them, and their chances would be pretty slim. And lastly, Solemn Judgment for negating crap. Yeah. And moving on to the extra deck, I added 5-headed dragon just to toy around with it. I mean, worked well so far. I've actually summoned him more than once, especially in this build. Helped me out a bunch of times. I mean, one time I was down like 250 and brought him out with no hassle. But this was before I put Dragon's Mirror into the deck. I had Future Fusion at the time. 3 Stardust Dragons, 2 Malefic Paradox Dragons, pretty powerful. I mean, especially for a Synchro Happy deck, or any Synchro Happy deck, or any kind of deck that use Synchro monsters. You get my drift. 1 5-headed, just for the fun of it, and it's pretty good. I mean, say if I can't get my Malefics back, and I'm out of options, 5,000 attack points. I mean, who wouldn't want that? And last but not least, 3 Cyber End Dragons. Wow. I gotta tell you, when Malefics came out, I thought, wow, these monsters are gonna be powerful in the future. But when I saw them, not just in the Yu-Gi-Oh movie, but also in duels where I go and play at, they were actually something I looked up to, and it was recommended to me to use these cards, because since I had most of the components to summon them, I figured, yeah, what the hell? I mean, use Malefics, why not? I mean, my dragon deck's screwed up, so until I get to that point, I'm not going to use a Malefic deck and possibly some other decks. Anyway, this is another deck profile. Hope you enjoyed the profile of my Malefic deck, and just rate, comment, do whatever. I mean, at this point, it's an analysis on my deck. You get my point. Peace, go.